Richard Bach didn't discover his philosophy in a monastery or a library. He found it strapped into a cockpit. For him, the meaning of freedom was written in the physical discipline of aviation. Before his writing reached millions, he pushed through the clouds to study aerodynamics, testing exactly what a machine and a human could endure. That education started in the military. Bach served in the Air Force Reserve and the New Jersey Air National Guard, where the margin for error was absolute zero. Flying an F-84F Thunderstreak required complete submission to the physical limits of the aircraft. He had to master structure, precision, and rigid protocol to survive. This environment eventually gave way to a different kind of flying. By the 1960s, Bach was working as a barnstormer, taking passengers on joyrides and flying entirely for the sake of the experience. His youth was spent testing the edges of physical gravity and drag. That constant friction planted a specific question in his mind. If the sky could be navigated by understanding its laws, human limitations might just be psychological. He needed a way to articulate that idea. Bach began translating his hours in the air into print, working as a technical writer for aviation companies and contributing articles to flying magazines. The cockpit was slowly being traded for the typewriter. The discipline required to keep a plane level was now applied to structuring sentences. His first book, Stranger to the Ground, used a flight mission from England to France to explore the internal state of the pilot. While it remained grounded in technical aviation, the book marked his first attempt to treat flight as a metaphysical experience. He understood the literal physics of how planes defied gravity. What he wanted to understand was how the human mind could achieve that same liftoff. He was searching for a way to take the feeling of uninhibited flight and translate it into a story that a grounded world could understand. That vessel turned out to be a strange manuscript, drafted a fable of fewer than 10,000 words about an outcast seagull who decides to pursue aerodynamic perfection instead of squabbling with his flock over fish heads. Publishers didn't know what to do with it. It didn't fit into existing categories for fiction, and the theme of a bird achieving self-realization through flight maneuvers baffled editors. Rejections piled up. Finally, in 1970, an editor at Macmillan named Eleanor Freed convinced the company to take a chance. They printed a minimal run of just 3,000 copies, with virtually no marketing budget. Bach was now a published novelist, but the initial release generated no coverage from major literary critics. He bought his own tiny advertisements just to get the word out. Then, word of mouth took over. By the end of 1970, the first printing sold out. By 1972, Jonathan Livingston Seagull hit #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, stayed there for 37 weeks, and rapidly pushed past 1 million copies in print. The timing matched the era. A story about a rebellious bird breaking away from the flock resonated with 1970s counterculture and the rising popularity of the New Thought movement. A rejected fable by a former military pilot had become a massive cultural phenomenon, selling over 1 million copies by word of mouth alone. 7 years later, Bach followed his success with a new novel, Illusions: The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. The story tracks a barnstorming pilot who crosses paths with a modern-day messiah. The twist is that the messiah has quit his job, frustrated that crowns only want cheap miracles instead of doing the work to understand the universe. This diagram illustrates Bach's view of reality. The physical world is tangible and grounded, intersecting directly with a higher metaphysical plane. As the narrative progresses, that strict boundary dissolves. Bach argues that rigid physical limits, even mortality itself, are just appearances we've agreed to believe. Bach used the mechanics of flight as a literary tool, employing the specific physics of lift and control as a vocabulary for human consciousness. He had moved completely past the literal physics of the atmosphere. Bach was now writing instructional guides for unbinding the human soul. The idealistic philosophy of his work soon faced professional and personal friction. The backlash to his success was sharp. Film critics like Roger Ebert called his work banal, and birdwatchers mocked the book for its anthropomorphism, pointing out that real seagulls aren't noble creatures. This friction hit Hollywood too. When Paramount adapted Jonathan Livingston Seagull into a film in 1973, Bach felt the director was destroying his vision. He sued the studio, ultimately forcing them to remove his name from the screenwriting credits entirely. The movie struggled, but its soundtrack, composed by Neil Diamond, was a massive hit. It won a Grammy and earned more money than the film itself. His personal life carried its own difficulties. Bach went through multiple divorces and long periods of estrangement from his children, highlighting the complex reality of a life dedicated to boundless personal freedom. His dedication to the sky often resulted in messy collisions with the realities of relationships and business on the ground. This collision became starkly literal on August 31, 2012. While en approach to a private airport in Washington, Bach's plane clipped a set of power lines and crashed upside down into a field. This is a 2008 Sea amphibious aircraft, the exact model he was flying that day, which he had nicknamed Puff. The crash nearly killed him. He spent the next 4 months in the hospital, fighting through a traumatic head injury and a broken shoulder. While recovering in his hospital bed, hovering on the edge of survival, Bach experienced a profound near-death experience. That encounter pushed him to finish a project he had abandoned decades earlier. In 2014, he finally published Part 4 of Jonathan Livingston Seagull, an ending he had originally written in the 1970s, but kept locked away. The new final chapter was a warning. It depicted a future where Jonathan's teachings of freedom are no longer practiced, but instead turned into empty rituals by a flock that refuses to actually fly. It leaves us looking at the entirety of his life's work. Was Richard Bach's greatest achievement selling millions of novels? Or was it demonstrating, through his writing, his failures, and his survival, that the limits we accept as reality might not be the limits that truly exist?